Is there anybody in this room? Good afternoon. On Saturday, on my way to Cape Town from Joburg, I sat on an aisle seat. It's not normally my preference, but it was acceptable. And on my right was a young South African of European descent who came in with one of these gadgets. I think he was listening to music with earphones in his ear. And he slept almost immediately. And I did try and listen to his music because I thought it might be Bob Marley music, but it wasn't. But when the drinks came, he woke up and he took his drink, some red wine, and slept again. And then as we went on, the food came, and the hostess had a special dish. And so she came inquiring, she came looking for the person who had a special dish, or I think it most likely was a vegetarian dish. And unfortunately, that particular person had changed their seat. So she started asking around who asked for this special meal. And she came to our row. So that then got me started with this young man having a conversation. And the meal came and we had a nice meal and we continued with our conversation. He's in the business of selling tools, etc. And then he went on and made a mistake of veering into politics. Now, when you start talking politics with me, you've got to be careful because you need to have the time to listen. Because I think politics is part of our life. Anyhow, somewhere along the line, after him telling me what it is that I can see down here, he advised me about not to drink water from the taps. And he said that whilst he's a resident here and was born here, he advised me not to take water from the tap. And I asked him why, and he said the dam is at about 100%, the dam is at 11% capacity. So I think to him the impression was that the water that is coming out there must be maybe full of sediments or etc. He's not an engineer, I think. But anyhow, I now related that story with what the mayor of this city talked of this morning about climate change, about the fact that the water in Cape Town is at low levels. And she said that I think you've got 80 days cover. So I want to thank my colleagues in GAMA and CISA for not putting this conference in August. If the conference was in August, I'm not very sure there would be water. But suffice it to say that we in Kenya have also been going through a very dry spell. And in Nairobi, our dam that brings water to Nairobi, the main dam, was at about 25%. And we started having rationing. But we always pride ourselves as Kenyans as being very prayerful. So after a lot of prayer, the rains have come. And that means that we can take our long shower, but we have to remember that sometimes the shower is cut short by the power being interrupted, and you can't have a cold, long shower. Anyway, coming back to our discussion on partnership, every time I come to Cape Town, I marvel at the infrastructure, how well developed it is. And take, for instance, just this very facility. And we have a long way to go, the other African countries. But there's a lot that we can learn from CISA and the members of CISA. Many who come here imagine that this is not quite like Africa. This looks like Europe itself. Which brings me to the last story, which is a presentation that was being made in my country last month by a delegation from Middle East coming to install equipment in the upstream oil and gas sector. Kenya recently discovered oil. And my company is involved in this project. So in this presentation, there was an engineer, the engineering manager is from Egypt, but he works in the Middle East, but he is Egyptian. And I asked him at some stage, very eloquent, nice guy, I asked him, have you been to Kenya before? He said, no, this is my first time in Kenya. In fact, this is my first time in Africa. So I think we need to get this partnership because this guy in Egypt doesn't quite consider himself to be part of Africa. Anyway, we'll go on to our first presentation. I have an interesting arrangement to moderate and also make a presentation. And this presentation I'm about to make on partnership is actually, to a certain extent, my own experience in as far as partnership is concerned. Current Technologies has been in existence for 15 years. I worked in the downstream oil and gas previously and started Current 15 years ago. And I have seen the development of the consulting business in our country, and in particular my own firm, and I can relate to many of the things that I'm going to share with you very briefly. These are the contents: introduction, partnership levels, benefits, way forward, conclusion. What I have observed through interaction with firms in Africa, through GAMA, is that the number of consulting firms are increasing, which is a good thing. They're increasing, meaning that there is perceived opportunity. They are trying to fill in a gap. And of course, the infrastructure growth in Africa is known to be increasing too. Of course, most of these firms were started off by an individual who wanted to be known beyond just being an engineer. He wanted to have a firm. In certain instances, they were started off by 2, 3 individuals, friends, engineers, like-minded, etc. And initially, they focused on their area of expertise, and that way created some brand value or recognition over time. And as it went on, the clients and the size of clients have increased for these firms. And also, you find yourself confronted when you're a small firm, when you get one client who seems to like you or have faith in you, and then he extends the range of services he would like from you. And then you're left in a situation where this client is saying, do this for me, but you're not in a position to do or to offer all the skills that you want. So firms, small firms then turn to other firms. Most likely, they were former classmates, they're friends, for additional capacity, additional skills, so that they can retain this client. Furthermore, the projects that some of these clients are doing are not maybe what you're used to. They're a bit more bigger, the requirements are a bit more sophisticated. Therefore, you have to turn to somebody else to assist you. Public procurement laws in Africa, as in many parts of the world, are forcing foreign firms, local firms to come together, initially to submit bids for, because that's a requirement. And when these partnerships take place, initially they are loose arrangements. You get to know somebody, you bumped into them, he seems to have faith in what you're saying, like the fact that you're offering the skills that they need to be complemented, or the skills that they need, they think you can do so that you can bid. So they are loose, kind of informal, largely based on trust. But there are challenges in those kind of arrangements. Sometimes the firms are different. The value system is different. The processes are very different. The thinking is different. Misalignment in terms of the way you perform, type of ways you deliver services, etc. And then, of course, my own experience is that some of the partners you clash, the cultures clash. if you've tried European kind of based consulting firms, especially for us who come from former English colonies, this tends to be a little easier. You're able to understand each other, and more importantly, you don't have language barriers. If you go to the East, then you have a difference in culture. It clashes in many instances. You can't communicate, etc. Of course, the smaller firms may not even have much of what you'd call management systems. Firms might be different in terms of integrity. Trust is an issue. And of course, when you're partnering with these firms, most likely there's no due diligence, especially for the smaller firms. I was once in a situation where I put in a bid with what I perceived to be a very big global firm. And after we put in our bid, somebody asked me, James, who are you partnering with? I said, this firm. And he said, don't you know they are debarred by the World Bank? We hadn't done our due diligence. That's a couple of years ago. Anyway, the projects have become bigger, more complex. Therefore, the need for building that capacity, diversifying skills, putting in robust management system to manage not only the companies, but also the risks involved to sustain the business. And like I said, finding yourself partnering because of the level of specialization. Even if you're a local firm and you feel you can do it, maybe you don't have the expertise. And nobody is willing to probably have faith in you to do it because you probably haven't done it before. What kind of partnerships do we find? We have, like I said, firms within a country. It's a predominantly mechanical firm teaming up with a predominantly civil firm that will then team up with a predominantly electrical firm, and you put together something and you would like to go for a job. So we have seen that, and then there are projects that are regional. It's easier in terms of economics, in terms of managing costs, for you to call somebody for us in Kenya, in Uganda, or Tanzania and say, can you do this for me? The job is in Tanzania, but I have the expertise in Nairobi. Also, firms within the continent, more reason why we are here as GAMA, to encourage us to team up. And of course, more importantly, partnership with global firms that have got a presence in many, many parts of the world. What do these kind of partnerships ordinarily require? Open communication. It's important that you understand and you're open to one another. I've seen instances where you put in a bid and the big firm says, I can't share with you what I'm going to put in the bid. It's confidential. You bring me yours and explain. And I ask him, why don't you also let me see yours? No, it's confidential, company rules. Therefore, when they put in the bid, guess what? We are the highest. And we're probably 3 times the second highest. That was an instance I had. So I said to myself, I had no clue their bidding process or thinking. These partnerships also require that you have some agreements, and I'm glad that we have some good experts here who will talk about this, so I'll not go in so much into it, sub-consultancies, joint venture agreement. And as I'd said earlier, most of these partnerships will start based on a very specific project. And then over time, you create a relationship. You start sharing information. The benefits of partnering: complementing one another in terms of skills, in terms of capacity. And I like it because once the trust level is built, then you are able to size up the other firm, and you are able to even help, most likely the smaller firm, to build capacity, especially because it will probably enable you to become more and more competitive. Reduction of cost through optimization of resources. Again, you're bidding, and therefore you would like to put in a most competitive bid. Higher chances through ability to prepare a proposal. A certain part will be done by this person, the methodology will be this side, the financial template will be done by that one, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, you're able to cover the services that are contained in the bid. And you have good experiences, the CVs you put in meet the threshold required. Of course, having partnership also means you have a wider network. The clients now, you have clients of one firm accessing clients of potentially another firm, so the network becomes bigger. We have also had instances where you have cross-posting. You want to build up a local capacity of a firm, you cross-post employees. You get maybe a good manager coming from the larger firm into the smaller firm to help them set up systems. And then you have young potential engineers going to the larger firm so that they can be in a position to also upgrade their skills so that you can use more of them. Of course, when you partner with a large firm, for the smaller ones, you get better brand value. Your marketing is better. The booths that you're seeing out there, you find yourself able to participate because you're able to share cost or you're able to ride onto the bigger firm. And of course, you have wider opportunities. You cover more areas of specialization. And of course, sharing of risks takes place. So what are we seeing and way forward? There's a trend on local content. It's a debate which sometimes is misunderstood. To me, local content does not mean that you would like to discourage competition, to discourage good practices. All what you're saying is that you've got to take advantage of the local resources in as far as tapping into the knowledge they have, the potentially more competitive rates that you can get with them so that you can be competitive. Sometimes it takes law to encourage people to do that, but to me, I think it is possible to gravitate towards improving local content with a view of executing better and more cost effectively. Capacity building is very key going forward in terms of partnership, skills development, technology transfer. Of course, as we go ahead, some parts of the world, consulting firms are finding it difficult maybe to get work, especially the larger ones, so they are in Africa looking for opportunities, so we expect a lot of competition. We are also expecting that the smaller firms, once they partner, will be able to execute and have better quality delivery. Not that they're necessarily doing bad, but we can have more firms delivering better. And the clients are sophisticated, their expectations are high. We also would benefit as local firms in partnering in us getting better management system. I have seen IT-based systems. They are not cheap. For a smaller firm, it is a tall order to put in some of these systems. So when you ride on the partnership and you have a bigger firm, then you are able to put some of these processes and skills in place. Also software, some of it not cheap. Again, we're able to ride on that. When you're with a good firm, integrity is likely to be enhanced because you have systems. More active role in membership of associations for reference and training. What we're saying is that our MAs should become the point of call for global firms or firms that want to partner with local ones in terms of trying to confirm that this is a firm with integrity, etc., and ability. The associations will have signed codes of conduct, promoted corporate governance, so that when these firms looking for local partners come in, they are able to get firms that they can have faith to do business with. And of course, what we are expecting is the associations to share data and information on firms' capabilities so that we can also encourage regional and continental partnership. Conclusion, well-structured partnerships have the potential to grow local consulting firms into large, well-established firms that can compete effectively in the global arena. We shouldn't see ourselves as just competing in Africa or working in Africa. We should be able to go to other geographies and also take our skills and, more importantly, at a very competitive rate so that we can expand and create jobs, wealth, etc. And of course, win-win. So I'll stop there and look, I'll go on to our next speaker, Malani, to continue with the next session. Thank you very much.